Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8. Chapter 9, Text 4. Atma Tattva Vishuddhyartham. Atma Tattva Vishuddhyartham. Yad'aha Bhagavan Ritam. Yad'aha Bhagavan Ritam. Brahmane darshayan rupam. Brahmane darshayan rupam. Avyalika vratadritaha. Avyalika vratadritaha. Atma tattva vishuddhyartham. Yadaha bhagavan ritam. Brahmane darshayan rupam. Avyalika vratadritaha. Atma tattva vishuddhyartham. Yadaha bhagavan ritam. Brahmane darshayan rupam. Avyalika vratadritaha. Atma tattva vishuddhyartham. Yadaha bhagavan ritam. Brahmane darshayan rupam. Avyalika vratadritaha. Atma tattva. The signs of God, or that of the living entity. Purification. Artham, goal. Yat, that which. Aha, said. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Ritam, in reality. Brahmane, unto Lord Brahma. Dashayan, by showing. Rupam, eternal form. Avyalika, without any deceptive motive. Vrata, vow. Adritaha, worshipped. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace of Bhaktivedanta Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. O King, the personality of Godhead, being very much pleased with Lord Brahma, because of his non-deceptive penance in Bhakti Yoga, presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma. And that is the objective goal for purifying the conditioned soul. Purport. Atma Tattva is the science of both God and the living entity. Both the Supreme Lord and the living entity are known as Atma. The Supreme Lord is called Paramatma and the living entity is called Atma, the Brahma or the Jiva. Both the Paramatma and the Jivatma, being transcendental to the material energy, are called Atma. So Shukadeva Goswami explains this verse with the aim of purifying the truth of both the Paramatma and the Jivatma. Generally, people have many wrong conceptions about both of them. The wrong conception of the Jivatma is to identify the material body with the pure soul, and the wrong conception of Paramatma is to think him on an equal level with the living entity. But both misconceptions can be removed by one stroke of Bhakti Yoga. Just as in the sunlight, both the sun and the world and everything within the sunlight are properly seen. In the darkness one cannot see the sun, nor himself nor the world. But in the sunlight one can see the sun, himself and the world around him. Srila Shukadeva Goswami therefore says that for purification of both wrong conceptions, the Lord presented his eternal form before Brahmaji, being fully satisfied by Brahma's non-deceptive vow of discharging Bhakti Yoga. Except for Bhakti Yoga, any method for realization of Atma Tattva or the science of Atma will prove deceptive in the long run. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that only by Bhakti Yoga can one know Him perfectly, and then one can enter into the science of God. Brahmaji undertook great penance in performing Bhakti Yoga, and thus he was able to see the transcendental form of the Lord. His transcendental form is 100% spiritual, and one can see Him only by spiritualized vision, after proper discharge of tapasya or penance in pure Bhakti Yoga. The form of the Lord manifested before Brahma is not one of the forms with which we have experience in the material world. Brahmaji did not perform such severe types of penance just to see a form of material production. Therefore the question by Maharaj Parikshit about the form of the Lord is answered. The form of the Lord is Satchin Ananda, or eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. But the material form of the living being is neither eternal, nor full of knowledge, nor blissful. That is the distinction between the form of the Lord and that of the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul, however, can regain his form of eternal knowledge and bliss simply by seeing the Lord by means of Bhakti Yoga. The summary is that due to ignorance, the conditioned soul is encaged in the temporary varieties of material forms. But the Supreme Lord has no such temporary form like the conditioned souls. He is always possessed of an eternal form of knowledge and bliss, and that is the difference between the Lord and the living entity. One can understand this difference by the process of Bhakti Yoga. Brahma was then told by the Lord the gist of Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 original verses. Thus Srimad Bhagavatam is not a creation of the mental speculators. The sound of Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental, and the resonance of Srimad Bhagavatam is as good as that of the Vedas. Thus the topic of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the science of both the Lord and the living entity. Regular reading or hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is also a performance of Bhakti Yoga, and one can attain the highest perfection simply by the association of Srimad Bhagavatam. Both Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit attained perfection through the medium of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Jnanatimrandasya Granjana Shalakaya Chaksharan Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Darati Svapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Uttaparikamalam Shri Guran Vaishnavamsta Shri Rupam Sakshatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sachidavam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamshta Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhyave Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. So we started the last few verses, new chapter, famous chapter, ends us by citing the Lord's version, where we will see where the Lord then will tell the gist of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 4 shloka version of it, to Lord Brahma, who is our head of our sampradaya, who is the first living entity in this universe. And yes, we know that he is so elevated that he could understand the whole Srimad Bhagavatam simply by hearing 4 verses from the Lord. But for us, we need 18,000, and for those we need amazing purpose by Srila Prabhupada to spoon feed it to us that we can grasp something. And we heard the last several verses about about the conception of I and mind, of the illusion, and of impersonalism. And so it was like now only 4th text, but there's in those few texts already there's like quite long and amazing purpose by Srila Prabhupada that it's worth to go through again. But we have quite a long purport in today's text also, so we'll go through that. And Yeah, so first Srila Prabhupada explains that Atma can refer not only to, like generally with Atma we refer to the Jiva, to this individual infinitesimal spirit soul, and even we know it can in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains, it can also refer, depends on the context, can refer also to the mind, especially when we talk about yoga, like in different parts of Bhagavad Gita, that's what it refers to. Or it can even just refer to the gross body. But of course the most important, the real meaning ultimately is the spirit soul, because that's the only Atma that lasts, which is eternal. And even more so, the ultimate Atma is the Lord Himself, because we know we're all part and parcel of the Lord. So the self of, the super self, the soul of all souls, that's the Lord Himself, or in that context, we call them Paramatmas, Para, so the Supreme Atma. As we know, which even as we single Jivas, we depend also in material life all the time on this Paramatma to be with us all the time, otherwise, we can't do anything. So that's, and so Atma Tattva, Tattva means science, or means to know something really factually, and to its root, not some speculation or not where there's no doubt at all left, but to know, to really know. So that's real science, and that's real knowledge that we get from the Shastra and from the great personalities such as Shukadeva Goswami here. And so and Prabhupada explains that, so Shukadeva Goswami will explain Atma Tattva in regard to both to the Jiva and to the Lord. And then Prabhupada goes on to give the analogy that how is it that we will understand both? That actually if we try to understand the Lord, then automatically we understand ourselves, because we are part and parcel of the Lord. And Prabhupada gives the example of the sun, just as if one is in the sunlight, then one doesn't, or rather, if one sees the sun, which is compared to Krishna, then automatically through the sunlight, then everything is illuminated, and so we see then not only the sun, but we see the world around us and ourselves as well. So there's no need for separately trying to understand just ourselves. After all, that's actually Maya, to see ourselves separate, whereas real knowledge means to see ourselves in the light of the Lord, to see ourselves and act in that position as the eternal servant of the Lord, as the part and parcel of the Lord. So, so that's the beauty of Bhakti Yoga, as Prabhupada points out here, that it is easy, simple, we know, if we are ready to take to it seriously, sincerely, and it gives full knowledge, gives full benefit in every regard. And there's no, because we know otherwise jnanis are different people who try to be transcendentalists or are transcendentalists, if they do it in a bona fide way at least. For them it's so hard to gain real transcendental knowledge, and their focus is many times on just on themselves, and themselves meaning trying to control the mind, trying to detach themselves from our lower nature, from following sense gratification, lust, greed, anger, all of that. So that's very difficult. But if we engage full-heartedly in Bhakti Yoga, then those things automatically get cleared up, as we hear here from Srila Prabhupada as well. And then in the next paragraph, Prabhupada goes on quoting Bhagavad Gita that only by Bhakti Yoga can we know Him perfectly. And perfectly we know means specifically not that with other paths we can come towards the Lord, as jnanis, to understand impersonal Brahman, whereas yogis understanding realizing the super soul feature, but only in Bhakti Yoga we can understand His personal form as Bhagavan, and thus this includes automatically the two subordinate features of the Lord, of the Absolute Truth. and thus we can enter into, how is this saying? Then one can enter into the science of God. So how does the verse go? Bhaktyaham avichanati yavan yashchasmi tattvataha. Bhaktyaham avichanati yavan yashchasmi tattvataha. No, so third line? No. Yeah, I think the third line is where the tattva is in this word there as well, with the signs. Tatumam. So I forgot the third line, but I'm pretty sure that there is also the word tattva, where Krishna tells that, by bhakti yoga only you can understand me, and factually as I'm here before you, and thus you can enter into my abode. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan Ki Jai. And so Prabhupada goes on then to explain that for Lord Brahma, that for him it was also that we know he did great penance, but we know he didn't do just penance. He did penance in performing bhakti yoga. And we know he started off doing penance only by the instruction of the Lord, by hearing the word tap from being given by the Lord. And so then he got to see the Lord and got to understand the Lord, not just with his eyes, with his purified heart. And so Prabhupada explains that this form is obviously not material, like he makes the point, like otherwise what would be the point of the greatest personality in this universe performing great penances than just to see yet another material form, which actually he is creating, engineering at least all the different living entities. So obviously if one uses a little logic only from that perspective, then it must be a different form, it must be a transcendental form of the Lord. And that form we know is Satchidananda Vigraha, full of knowledge and bliss in contrast to our material bodies. And and then Prabhupada winds up in the last paragraph about so then he ends up glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam, that we can understand this difference of the Jiva and of the Lord and of matter and spirit and the whole science of Bhakti Yoga by the process of Bhakti Yoga, and one of these, part of that is to read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, which is as good as the Vedas, or actually it's the crown jewel, the cream of all the Vedas. And so this shows us again the importance of hearing transcendental knowledge, transcendental sound vibration from authorities. And because we know it, as devotees we hear it so many times, and we try to engage in hearing, but still we might, in our heart at least, we still might think, well, it's nice, it's good, but it's not such a big deal to somehow still get exposed to material sound vibration or engage in prajalpa and all of that. But the Lord in his incarnation as Lord Kapila, he's quite straightforward in all his instructions to Madhadeva. It's so amazing actually. Of course it's a transcendental relationship, pure devotee, Madhadeva Hoti, but still it's like he's speaking to his own mother, all those instructions, and he's speaking so heavy at times, and at least so clear-cut, straightforward, especially about material existence, because that's what she's inquiring about, because she knows humbly that it is very important to understand that as well. So of course, elaborately he explains Bhakti Yoga in many ways, but also in about how we have to be detached, or how to become detached by getting knowledge about also the disadvantages of material life. But yeah, so the verse that he says specifically about hearing is, I think, verse number. Let me check. Well, yeah, so Canto 3, chapter 32, and verse number 28, I think. So, or I can look it up. I'm not sure about the verse number, but I think I remember it. So Lord Kapila says that Nunam devena vihata echachuta katasudam hitva shrinvanti asad kata piyusham viva vidbujaha. So Lord Kapila says that that Nunam certainly are those who also not only he even uses the word Daivena as well. So by the supreme order, or by the Lord Himself, certainly by the Lord Himself, those who give up the hearing of Krishna Katha, of the transcendental sound, and instead engage in hearing Asat Katha, in hearing about mundane personalities, they are certainly condemned. And then he gives the punch, like how can we understand a bit more about how condemned they are. He gives the analogy of just as hogs, stool-eating hogs. The word in Sanskrit is actually vidbujaha, so the name of hogs literally means stool eaters. And there in the Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada elaborates in that as well, that for a hog, it is in that species, even if they are offered very nice preparations, nice milk sweets, gulab jamun or something, they won't like it, they won't accept it, but rather they will prefer like the Prabhupada says, the obnoxious, bad-smelling stool. And so that's how much a person is condemned who does not, who rejects to hear Krishna Katha and instead hears about mundane personalities. And because, it's like Prabhupada there in Prabhupada as well, he explains that it is because actually we know as a pure spirit soul, as servants of Krishna, we naturally want to hear of Him, of His glories, of His activities, of everything constantly, because that's, hearing on the spiritual platform, it's not, it is not just hearing as in the material world, but rather it is directly associating with the Lord. So naturally, a pure devotee always wants to hear, because they always want to be with Krishna, they always want to serve Krishna, remember Krishna. And so, so from that original nature, then we have the inclination in the perverted form in the material world also, that we want to hear about others, about the glories of different people. But if you think about it, it's quite amazing, because alright, I'll just first use the words that Prabhupada uses in the Prabhupada there. So that text was actually chapter 32, text 19. And so Prabhupada says there that everyone is addicted to hearing of the activities of another person, be it a politician, a rich man, or an imaginary character whose activities are created in a novel. So, it's not only about great personalities, so-called great personalities in this world, but even people. Then we like to hear of characters made up in a novel, of the people we even know. It's made up, has no substance at all, no even temporary material substance, but simply some figment of imagination of one novel writer, or that's how desperate we actually are to engage in that activity of hearing of another's glories. But that's why Lord Kapila gives this heavy example that how condemned we are, that it's just like stool-eating hog who would get the best preparations, but rather prefers stool. Because, rather than hearing about the most beautiful, unlimited glories of the Lord, we even go that much away from that we rather prefer to hear from some useless imagination of someone, just to express this inclination that we naturally do have, actually. So and then in three texts later, Prabhupada, in a purport where then, because in this section in the chapter 32, Lord Kapila, in a few verses, he condemned the karmis, their mentality, and then in verse 22 he starts then again, also shifts over to the point, okay, so that's why we shouldn't engage in that, but we should take shelter of the Supreme Lord, take shelter of His lotus feet, engage in His service, and because His lotus feet are worth worshipping. And Srila Prabhupada explains there beautifully the purport that Lord Krishna's transcendental qualities are so sublime that there's no need to divert one's attention to any other activity. So it's about Krishna's qualities that only His qualities, or those of His pure devotees we know, because that's directly related to Him, are actually worth hearing about and meditating on. And we know, by doing that, we ourselves get purified and also slowly reawaken those qualities in our minute quantity that we have naturally. And then secondly, Prabhupada says there that his behavior with the devotees is so exalted that one need not try to divert his attention to any other worship. So first in terms of hearing, and second in terms of worshipping anyone. Specifically here, Prabhupada says so beautifully that his behavior with his devotees is so exalted, so that there's no point to turn to anyone else. And then Prabhupada gives the famous example of Putana, of course we know, whom also Uddhava, which gives him such ecstasy of if he thinks about how merciful Krishna was to Putana, giving someone who came with the intention to kill him, giving him a position in the spiritual world as a nurse, just like a mother. So, that's one of innumerable examples of how amazingly merciful and beautifully the Lord behaves with His devotees. So, and hearing those kinds of activities of the Lord and specifically His dealings with the devotees strengthens our faith also, that we can understand that there's really no doubt at all that the Lord would ever fail in reciprocating perfectly with us. So, if, as we know, there's not a tiny single endeavor that we may do in our devotional service, in our bhakti yoga, would ever be fruitless. The Lord will always reciprocate perfectly. It's just from our side that we are miserly because of our material contamination, that we don't give ourselves fully, but the Lord, He's very eagerly awaiting to reciprocate in amazing ways that we can't even conceive of. So we are on time already. Thank you. Our intention. Okay, sorry. Yes, question. Bhaktyaham. Okay, so third line, tattamam tattvato jnanam vishate tadanantaram. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Kanantarachima bhaktam ke jaya. Srila Prabhupada ke jaya.